Welcome back. We're going to be doing Bible study. I'm Jarrin Jackson. We're going to be doing it John 11, chapter 11, verse 38 through 44. That's what we're going to be covering today. This is Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. Then Jesus, again groaning in himself, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of him who was dead, said to him, "Lord, by this time there is a stench, for he has been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not say to you that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God?" Then, let me get this out of the way. Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead man was laying. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me, and I know that you always hear me. And I know, but because of the people who are standing by, I said this, that they may believe that you sent me." Now, when he had said these things, he cried with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." And he who had died came out bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Loose him and let him go." Resurrection, good stuff. This is all one story, continuation. Jesus had just been led to the tomb. He had just wept. That was previous Bible study. Now, what I first mention, or what I first notice here, is that it says, "Then Jesus, again groaning in himself." Now, what I love about this is that whenever we see again groaning, that means that Jesus has been groaning before. So when did the Bible say that Jesus was previously groaning? Said the Bible says that Jesus was previously groaning. Where are we at? Right here. He groaned in the spirit and was troubled. So here before, this is the first time the Bible says that Jesus was groaning here at this time. And then it says he not only groaned in the spirit and was troubled. So this groaning in the spirit, this comes from the Greek. He is admonishing, he's snorting with anger. So there's an angry part, there's an angry aspect to this. And then he was troubled. This is agitated, perplexed, vexed, irked. Troubled. He's not normal. Something's off about him. Now, what does the Bible say here? Then Jesus, again groaning in himself. It no longer says that Jesus is troubled. Here it says he groaned in the spirit and was troubled. Here it just says he's again groaning. So we can conclude that Jesus is still angry. He's still snorting with anger. That's the same word. He's snorting with anger. He's admonishing death here. But he's not troubled by it. He's not troubled by death. So this is Jesus. He's snorting with anger. He came to the tomb. So he's coming to the tomb. Death, he's coming here. And sorry, I've got the Tootie in here. She's playing because I have no other one to watch her. Then Jesus, groaning in himself, came to the tomb. So he's no longer troubled. He's angry. He's snorting with, and this isn't like just a wrathful, vengeful, spiteful, hellfire, brimstone anger. This is not what I want, and this is a nuisance type of anger. He's groaning in himself, just came to the tomb. So he's not troubled as he comes to the tomb. It was a cave. Caves are dark. Caves are stone. There's nothing that's going to grow there. There's no light. And a stone lay against it. So the people who had built this tomb had put a stone against it. A wall, a protection, certainty. Think of a prison cell. Think of a castle that they have constructed that is defending death. A tomb is a castle that defends death. It is something that stands permanently, as though death is something that can't be overdone. There's no light. There's nothing growing in there. The stone is permanent. It's there against it. It is there to defend death, basically. Jesus said, "Take away the stone. Remove the thing that is defending death. Remove the thing that is preventing death from coming out to all of us." Another way to look at this is tombs are where people localize death. if Lazarus did not die in this tomb, he died in his house with his family, with other people. And then people moved his body to put him in this tomb, where it was dark, where things aren't growing, and then they defended against death by localizing it in a tomb. The death is not going to escape the tomb. So they've put it in here. It's like it's its box. It's the prison. Jesus is saying, take away the stone. Open the prison to death. Open it. Take away the stone. Let me in. Now, this would have come off as incredibly taboo because he's dead. And remember, there's Martha and all these other Jews that have come to weep with her, right? The Jews who have come in the house and comfort her. So there's a bunch of Jews there, and this is their culture. Their culture is trying to struggle with death by mourning and grieving and trying to understand the loss and the significance. So Jesus is saying, take away the stone. He's speaking directly against what the culture is. He's speaking directly against what all these people gathered by are expecting. They are thinking, okay, Jesus is a teacher. He's going to come here, and he's going to put his hand on the stone, and he's going to mourn. And even then, look, their expectations again. Then the Jews said, see how he loved him, which we covered this last time. I'm not going to get into that again, but this is what people expected. People expected folks to go to the tomb, see the stone and be like, oh no, he's dead. Not snorting with anger like I just did, but crying, weeping. Martha, the sister of him who was dead. So Martha is identified as the sister of the dude who was dead. So Lazarus is dead. Martha is identified as that. So she is family. Everyone else there is supporting her and Mary, the sisters. So the family of the dead guy came to the teacher, came to Jesus. Now this is, just imagine this. Like you go to a cemetery or you go to, a freshly dug grave and you're like, dig up that body. If the family of the person who just got buried is there and there are onlookers, don't you think that someone would be like, no, I'm not going to do that? Same kind of idea here, but more so because Martha is adding more to this. She's not telling him, no, you can't do that. She's telling him, no, watch what she says. Lord, by this time there is a stench, for he has been dead 4 days. And this is just talking about the decomposition of the bodies. From dust we come, till dust we shall return. So yeah, there's a stink. And so Martha is basically telling Jesus, no. Jesus says, take away the stone. Martha doesn't say specifically no, but what she does tell him is, Lord, hey, there's a stench. As though Jesus isn't thoughtful of the stench. Do you not? Is Jesus such a bad teacher, talking about life and salvation and how to live, that he doesn't understand that after 4 days of being dead that there's not going to be a stench? Is she calling him stupid? Is she trying to save face for him culturally? Everyone else is standing around and everyone else kind of acknowledges him to be a teacher, but he's the guy that's out here saying, take away the stone. How embarrassing it would be for this teacher to say to take away the stone, and then there's this big stench. So maybe she wants to protect his fellowship. Maybe she wants to make him and save him from himself. She doesn't want him to get embarrassed, maybe. Or, as I believe, I don't think that she is thinking about who this is. She calls him Lord, yes, but I see this statement as disbelief. Disbelief because she can't consider that he is unlimited and infinite. And because she's not considering that he is unlimited and infinite, resurrection does not even come into her mind. What comes into her mind and what guides her thinking, she tells you. The stench. Death. Death is the thing that's governing Martha's thinking. And this is, this is not against her. This is supposed to glorify God. This is supposed to point to Jesus. Jesus does not consider death, stench, rot, stone, tomb, culture, death, honoring, mourning the dead. He does not consider that a thing for him to be stopped by. He just looks at it and he's snorting with anger at it. That's Jesus' response. Jesus is the only guy that's over here snorting with anger. All these other people are crying. All these other people are like, if he could have opened the man's eyes, don't you think he could have kept this man from dying? So there's a whole lot of emotions going on, but Jesus is likely the only guy that's snorting with anger at the tomb. Jesus is likely the only guy that's standing there going, move the stone, let's do some work. Let's glorify God here. Everybody else, like Martha, like the family, like the people who are there mourning, are there saying to him, God, hey, there's a stench. I don't want you to be embarrassed. Don't you know it's culturally inappropriate for us to dig up the body or roll back the stone after 4 days of being dead? Jesus said to her, did I not say to you that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God? Now, put a pin in this. What does Jesus actually say? Did Jesus say this? Did I not say to you that if you would believe that you would see the glory of God? Is that what Jesus said? Is that specifically? Are these the exact words? Is Jesus repeating exactly what he just told to Martha? No, he's not. This is where it's important to understand the intent and the context of what Jesus is saying. So this is earlier. Let me find it here. Usually I look off the camera, but now I got to just find it. Okay, so when Jesus is with his disciples, he said, our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I go that I may wake him. Then his disciples said, well, if he sleeps, he'll get better, so don't worry about it. He's just taking a rest. Then Jesus said to them plainly, Lazarus is dead. So Jesus knew a long time ago, Jesus knew days before, Lazarus is dead, and I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, that you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go to him. So Jesus has been saying to his disciples, days before he meets Martha and Mary, that Lazarus is dead. So Jesus knows he's dead. He's not dumb. And remember, Jesus is not there. So when the people come to Jesus and say, hey, Lazarus is sick, Jesus knows, yeah, he's going to die. He's dead. So Jesus is not dumb. He knows about death. But there's a purpose here. And I'm glad for your sakes that I was not there, that you may believe. Let's consider this, that Jesus is trying to get people to believe through Lazarus being dead. How does Jesus get people to believe through Lazarus being dead? What is it about death and Jesus specifically that can get people to believe? This is what Jesus is doing. He's a teacher. He's trying to teach people something about himself through dead people so that people believe. That's what his purpose is. Now, if we go to Martha, the very next page, she comes up to him and she says, I know that whatever you ask God, God will give you. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Now, we talked about this in previous live streams. I'm not going to go back through the whole thing. But Martha said, I know that he will rise again at the resurrection last day. This is the glory that Jesus is talking about. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? So when Jesus is saying here, did I not say to you that if you believe, you would see the glory of God? What is he talking about? To Martha, he did not say, did I not say that if you believe in me, you shall see the glory of God? What did Jesus say? Jesus told Martha, come on, camera. Come on, camera. Jesus told Martha, I am the resurrection and the life. That's what he told Martha. He didn't tell Martha, if you believe in me, you shall see the glory of God. Come on. Oh, come on. I want to put it down here. Or just hold it up. This is not comfortable. Jesus didn't tell Martha, if you believe in me, you shall see the glory of God. Jesus told Martha, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. This is what Jesus means by the glory of God. The glory of God is that Jesus is the resurrection and the life. The glory of God is that he who believes in Jesus Christ, though he may die, he shall live. The glory of God is that whoever lives and believes in Jesus Christ shall never die. That is the glory of God. When Jesus said to Martha these words, he's telling Martha, if you believe these words, you will see the glory of God. And of course, down here, she says to him, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is to come in the world. So Jesus says, if you believe in me, this is the stuff that happens. And she said she believed in him. But does she? Let's go back to what she's actually saying. The woman who just on the previous page told Jesus, yes, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, the one is to come into the world. Martha, who told Jesus, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, the ones that come into the world. She said that like 2 seconds ago. Now she's telling him, Lord, by this time there's a stench, for he has been dead 4 days. What is she telling him? Read between the lines. She's saying, he's dead. He stinks. I don't want you to be embarrassed, Jesus. Let's not roll this stone away. Is Martha thinking about who Jesus is and what he can do? Nope, not at all. What is governing Martha's beliefs? Does Martha really believe by these words? I mean, think about this. She is looking, the person she says is the Christ, the Son of God, the Lord Almighty, the one who comes into earth. She is looking directly at him, speaking directly at him. Does she act as though she believes that he is who he is? Does it come across in her words that she believes that he is who she has said he is? What I'm trying to get at is not to beat Martha up. What I'm trying to do is to look at who is our thinking focused on. Was Martha's thinking focused on Jesus? No. She may have been trying to save him from himself, to not be embarrassed or not to be stinked or whatever. But is her thinking focused on who he actually is and therefore what he can do and what he has authority over? I don't think so. And why do I think this? Because Jesus says, did I not say to you that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God? If you would believe. Jesus is saying to Martha, the same person who told him that he is the Christ and the Son of God, the one to come into the world. Jesus is saying to that person who confessed that, did I not say to you that if you would believe? So either A, she believed and Jesus had to remind her to believe, which, is that belief? I don't know. Well, that's another discussion. But Jesus is looking at her saying, did I not just say, like the last page, that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God? But what is the glory of God? What is the glory of God? The glory of God is what Jesus said it was. The glory of God is what Jesus told her. That he is the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, that he may die, he shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me, he shall never die. That's the glory of God. That's what God wants glory on. That is God's chosen way to get glory. That's what you all have to understand, is that this is not about saving Jesus from the stench of death. This is not about considering what we think reality is before God does stuff. This is saying, how does God choose to get the glory? God chooses to get the glory through the resurrection. That's the whole point. That's literally Christianity. Then they took away the stone. So again, Jesus is like, did I not say that if you believe, you would see the glory of God? So that's it. Argument settled. Argument settled. Now, think about this, and to kind of speak up for Martha and the people that were there, to their credit, they took away the stone. Now, do you think that they would take away the stone for just anybody? No. Like, if I'm going to go visit your dead relative, and you're going to come there with me, and I say, hey, dig him up. Oh, okay, yeah, sure. No problem, random guy. No, this is Jesus they're talking about. So there is a level of respect, there is a level of deference and love and consideration, but you can almost feel the tension. You can almost feel the, I really don't know about this. But they took away the stone from the place where the dead man was laying. They've already started to deconstruct the castle that defends death. They're taking away, they're dismantling death. That's what's going on. But we're not there yet. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and he said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me, and I know that you always hear me. But because of the people who are standing by, I said this, that they may believe that you sent me. Again, you go back to Jesus and his disciples. He's saying, what did he say? The last, he said to his disciples, and I'm glad for your sakes that I was not there, that you may believe. So Jesus is trying to teach his people, he's trying to have people believe by teaching them something about Lazarus being dead. That's what Jesus wants his disciples to see. Jesus wants his disciples to learn something about death, to learn something about him, and he's going to use Lazarus' death to facilitate their belief. That's what Jesus is getting at. Now, when we look at this, Jesus acknowledges, okay, pull back the stone. All right, you guys have done what you can do. All right, so we can actually move this stone away. I can unearth this body. Yeah, we can physically do that. We're talking about the physical stuff. But Jesus, there's stench. He's gone, man. He's done. He's toast. He's dead. So people can't do anything beyond what the physical stuff is. So now anything beyond the physical is up to not these people. They did physical stuff. We can do physical stuff. Who does all the stuff that's not physical? And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. So even Jesus is showing here the direct communication that he has with God the Father. And he's grateful for that direct communication. That's an infinite lesson there by itself. But that God the Father has heard Jesus. So when Jesus is lifting up his eyes and saying, God the Father hears Jesus. So again, I don't want to rabbit trail, but that's an infinite word. Father, I thank you that you have heard me. That's infinite lesson right there. That talks about the character of God. It talks about the relationship between Jesus and God the Father. It talks about the distinction between Jesus and God the Father. For those people who think that, God's all wrapped up in one, here is Jesus, physical in the body as a person on the earth, talking to God the Father in heaven. So, there is a distinction here. That is, they are not the same, but are the same. So, infinite idea. And I know that you always hear me. And I know. Jesus has knowledge. That's an intimate knowledge. He knows firsthand. Jesus has firsthand knowledge that God the Father always hears Jesus. Always hears Jesus. Now, I thought about this morning when I was reviewing this. And I thought about it on the cross. Let me put a pin in this because I want to address something very, very quickly. I want to address something in, I believe it's Matthew. I believe it's Matthew's gospel. Matthew's really detailed. I believe it's Matthew. Hold on, I'm looking. Okay, yeah, there it is. Matthew 27. Matthew 27. Jesus says on the cross, Jesus is dying on the cross. He says, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? Now, a lot of people say this is God turned his face away from Jesus. God looked away from him. God didn't hear him. That this is Jesus crying out, oh no, God, help. In fact, even the people that were there, some of those, when they heard that, they said, this man is calling for Elijah, right? So he's calling out. But what was Jesus doing? This is Psalm 22. This is Psalm 22. Jesus, right here, my God, why have you forsaken me? Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. This is Psalm 22. Now, I would encourage you, we're not going to do this today, but I would encourage you to go read all of Psalm 22, and you tell me who this is about. So, remember, Psalm, that's 1,000 years before Jesus. So 1,000 years before Jesus, Psalm 22 is being written. So Psalm 22, verse 1, right? So this is David. This is King David writing this. Verse 1, my God, why have you forsaken me? Where did we just hear that? Matthew 27, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. My God, why have you forsaken me? Yeah, Jesus was crying out. Yes, he was in pain. He was also referencing Psalm 22. Now, what about Psalm 22 is it that I want to point out? You can go read it, and you can tell me, again, God speaks so specifically and on purpose. What is he saying? What is said in Psalm 22 that I want to point out right here? Verse 24. Psalm 22, verse 24. For he has not despised nor abhorred the affliction of the afflicted, nor has he, God the Father, hidden his face from him. But when he cried to him, he heard. So this is the chapter that Jesus is crying out on the cross, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, why have you forsaken me? My God, why have you forsaken me? Psalm 22. It's funny, whenever I said this, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, my 2-year-old over here stopped playing and she's listening to me. It's amazing how the Bible speaks to people. Anyway, verse 24, for he has not despised or abhorred the affliction of the afflicted, nor has he hidden his face from him. Did God hide his face from Jesus when he was on the cross? But when he cried to him, he heard. When Jesus cried to God the Father, did God the Father not hear him? No, God heard him. Why is this? John 11, God, you always hear me. You always hear me. Now you have to think, all right, Jesus, you're on the cross, you're dying, and we're getting ahead of ourselves, and maybe I'm going to repeat this whenever we get to this part in later on in John. But why would this matter? And I know that you always hear me, but because of the people who are standing by, I said this, that you may believe that you sent me. So Jesus is speaking in this specific context. The reason why Jesus is doing this in this specific context is so, one, people see the glory of God. Amen. That's why everything's here. Like, everything is here for the glory of God. But two, so that people may believe that you sent me, that God sent Jesus. So there's something about Jesus and death that is supposed to get you to believe that you sent me. Remember, Jesus is saying he's going to do something with Lazarus being dead so his disciples can believe. But why did I go to Matthew 27 to point out, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani? Why did I point out Psalm 22? That God always hears Jesus. Here's the issue. Death is everyone's enemy, and only Jesus can conquer it. Even when Jesus was on the cross, death could not separate the Father and Jesus. That's the issue. That these people are looking at a stone. They're looking at a tomb. They're looking at the defense of death. Yes, they can dismantle it somewhat. They can take the stone away. They can do that stuff. But what can't they do? They can't see the glory of God, even though they take a stone away from the tomb. Jesus is doing exclusively what only Jesus can do. That's the issue. He knows that God always hears him, but conjunction, opposite, new idea. So Jesus is not saying this to God because Jesus doesn't think that God hears him. To the contrary, but Jesus tells you why he's doing this. Because of the people who are standing by, I said this. So Jesus is saying these words so that the people who are standing there can hear him say these words. Now think about that. You got an open tomb. You got stinkiness. You got people that are like, all right, Jesus, we just unrolled this tomb. We just told you that there's a bunch of stench. I'm kind of crying because the people that I'm here to mourn, and Lazarus, who's my friend, he's still dead. You just opened up his tomb. I now smell his stinking corpse. And you're over here looking up to the sky with your eyes open saying, God, you have heard me, and I know that you always hear me. And I'm sitting here going, all right, Jesus, what you got for me? Because this is a really weird and awkward situation. And Jesus says out loud so people can hear him, but because the people who are standing by, I said this. So Jesus is about to do what he's going to do for the people who are standing by. Jesus said what he's about to say and what he has said for the people who are standing by. Jesus is doing what he's doing for the glory of God for the people who are standing there. That they may believe that you sent me. That's the issue. The issue is that God the Father sent Jesus. That's the glory of God. You want to see the glory of God? Believe that God the Father sent Jesus. That's it. How do we know? Now, here's where things get awesome. Now, when he had said these things, remember, there's people standing around, there's the tomb open, the wafting stench of a rotting corpse is likely starting to offend their nostrils. People are probably starting to gather around like, hey, why y'all opening up that tomb? Isn't there a dead guy in there? Don't you guys know that culture and tradition and religion is for us to not open up the tomb? What y'all guys doing? What y'all guys doing? There's probably curiosity. There's probably like, what's going on? What are they doing this? What's going on? He cried with a loud voice. Cragadzo. This is yelling out loud. I almost played a clip, but then I said I'm not going to. This is a cry. This is not a, oh no. This is a battle cry, my friends. This is a roar. This is a victorious, triumphant yell with no hint of competition. There's no competition here. Death has no power here. The stench may be there. The stone might be physically rolled away, but the grave is still full. There's still a bunch of dead people there, and Jesus doesn't participate. Jesus doesn't do stuff as though death is a consideration. What does he do? With a commanding voice, with a cry. He cried with a loud voice. Out loud, out loud. That's what it's saying. He cried, he kragadzo. He kragadzoed out with a loud voice. It's basically like he yelled really loud with a really loud yell. So this is like stamping the hammer, like hammering down. He is loud. Which means that, do you think that this was loud? So Jesus goes from, what do you think this is? And he's probably talking a little bit louder so that people can hear him, right? So standing by, people can hear him. How clustered do you think they are? How do you think they're within 6 feet of him? Do you think that, how close to these people, these bystanders are to Jesus? Just interesting, just a thought. But he cries out loud with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. Just let that ring. Lazarus, come forth. That's a command, my friends. That is not a request. That is not nicely asking. That is not pleasant. This is not negotiable. This is a command. Come forth. Come here. Come here. Lazarus, come here. And he who had died. Whoa, 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 whoa. And he who had died, Martha, the sister of him who was dead. So whoa, 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 whoa. Just a few paragraphs ago, him who was dead. He was dead. He who had died. So death is past tense. When Jesus gets involved, death is past tense. It's like not even a concern. He's like, yeah, I had died. But then Jesus got involved, and so death isn't really a thing. The sister of him who was dead. So was dead. So the guy was dead here. And then he had died here. So he was dead, and then he had died. Do you see how Jesus makes death, a blip? And he who had died came out bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to them, loose him and let him go. Now, I want to spend so much time right here with the loud voice, the commanding, because this just shows his authority. This shows his power. This shows the fact that he's not negotiating. This shows the fact that he can do whatever he wants to do. This shows the fact that whenever Jesus is sitting here talking to people, hey, take away the stone. It's like, I'm not considering who Jesus is and what he can do. Instead, we talk about, hey, Jesus, there's a stench. I can't do it because I don't have enough money. I'm not popular enough. I got a job or do whatever. It's like, are we really thinking about who's the person telling us to take the stone away? Are we really thinking about, who's the dude saying for us to do the stuff? And so he says, come forth. That's a command. That's a military commander. That's a king. That's a king saying, come here. I have sovereignty. I am sovereign. Do what I say. And he who had died came out bound hand and foot with grave clothes. Now, put a pin in that. Put a pin right there. Boom, in grave clothes. Actually, hold on. Put a pin in this. And his face was wrapped with a cloth. Boom, put a pin in that. All right, let's go to John chapter 20. This is later on. This is later on in the same book. John chapter 20. John chapter 20. Oh, that says 19, but 20 is right there. John chapter 20. So they go to the tomb. Peter therefore went out and the other disciple, and they were going to the tomb, so they both ran together, and the other disciple. So the other disciple here is John. So this is the Gospel of John. This is the Apostle of John, and this is how John refers to himself, the other disciple. So that other disciple is the Apostle John. And they were going to the tomb, so they both ran together. The other disciple outran Peter. How's that for some type of competition? Forever enshrining the fact that John is faster than Peter, and came to the tomb first. And he saw, stooping down, looking in, the linen cloths laying there, yet he did not go in. So linen cloths. So they wrap dead people in linen. They wrap dead bodies in linen. There's a reason for that. We'll get to that. Then Simon Peter came following him and went into the tomb, and he saw the linen clothes lying there, and the handkerchief that had been around his head not lying with the linen clothes, but folded together in a place by itself. Now, let's go back to John 10. So that's Jesus' resurrection, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. We got a couple more lessons before we get there, so I'm not going to focus on that right now. But look at what they said. Came out bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was wrapped with a cloth. Lazarus is alive, but he's still wrapped up in death. The death is still clinging to him. The stuff that was, the stuff other people had put on him to keep him straight so that he could decompose with dignity. And his face was wrapped with a cloth. If your face is wrapped with a cloth, you can't see. He probably looks like a mummy coming out of there. This would have been the social norm of wrapping someone in grave clothes, and then the year later they would come by, gather the bones, and then put them in what's called an estuary. This is just Jewish burial custom. But for now, the body's got to decompose, and they kind of put it there so that it all decomposes the right way, and grave clothes is something they wrap the body in. But he would have come up emerging looking like a mummy. Which again, imagine the people that are standing near him, standing by. They're close. They're adjacent too. And they heard Jesus say that. They heard him cry out. Now, when he cries out, don't you think other people are going to come? Hey, what was that? Lazarus come forth? Wasn't Lazarus the name of the guy that died? Yeah, he's buried over there. That's where it came from. Why are they calling for Lazarus who died to come forth from the place where they put him in the tomb? That doesn't make sense. Let's go see. And then they go and see, and then boom, what do they see? They see the dude who had died, came out hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was wrapped with a cloth. So he's still wrapped up in death. He's still there. But the death preparations don't have any effect on him. In other words, when someone is alive, the death preparations don't have effect on you. I mean, they can weigh you down and stuff, but they can't cancel out that you had died because you're alive. Jesus said to them, loose him and let him go. Jesus came to give liberty and freedom to those who were dead. Now, where is this before? We go back, let me put my marker here. Isaiah 61 is when, you remember whenever Jesus, I think there's other times, it's Matthew 4, but whenever Jesus had started his ministry, he says, give me the scroll of Isaiah. So he takes the scroll of Isaiah and he reads Isaiah 61. And then when he sits down, he says, this has been fulfilled in your hearing today. What's he saying? What's Isaiah 61 say? This is Isaiah 61, right? The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach good tidings to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives. What is this talking about? Is this talking about alive people who are enslaved or behind bars or have their hands tied, or what's that? Their heads in a stockade? When you talk about God, when you talk about Jesus, you have to learn how God and Jesus talk. God doesn't care about actual physical death. He cares about separation from him. If you are captive, you are captive to sin. If you are dead in sin. If you are captive in sin or dead in sin, you will not spend time with God. So when Jesus came to proclaim liberty to the captives, he's coming to allow us to have freedom from death, freedom from sin. We are captive to sin. We are dead in sin. We are prisoners. We were condemned to eternity because we sin. Jesus came to proclaim liberty to the captives. How do I know that they're talking about death? Well, Jesus tells you, let the Bible interpret the Bible. I am the resurrection and life. He who believes in me, though he may die, that's physical death, he shall live. Whoa, Jesus, that really doesn't make sense. I'm going to physically die, but I'm going to live? Yeah, because Jesus is focused on life with him. Jesus is not focused on physical life. That's important, and there's implications there, and we should run the race and work diligently for his glory, but come on. He's not here for physical death, physical life. He's here for his life. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. That's the condemnation that he saves us from. That's the liberty to the captives. That's what we're captive to, is that eternal death, that eternal condemnation. Now, whenever Jesus gets involved with death, the most death can do is have you wrapped up with your grave clothes, at which point does Jesus just leave you there looking like a mummy? No. Loose him. Let him go. Let him go. Let him go. Free him. He is no longer a slave to sin. He's no longer a captive to death. Just amazing. Amazing Resurrection from the dead is so that people may believe. That's the glory of God. That's what Jesus is trying to do. That's what was not trying to do. That's what Jesus did. Jesus raised this dude from the grave so that people could believe that God the Father sent Jesus. That's the focus. The focus is not that Lazarus is no longer dead. The focus is not that, hey, he was dead and he's kind of still got this stuff on looking like a mummy. No. It's, he's not only dead, loose him, let him go, because God the Father sent me for his glory. Next time, we'll pick up John 11:45.